Hello and welcome to the Anthony Davis episode of the Hoop Theory Podcast, aka episode 59. My name is Logan Wertman, and as usual, I'm joined by my brave co-host, Jacob Baroth. Jacob, how does it feel to be on the Anthony Davis episode?
Feels pretty good, because what are we on? We're on
59.
59.
Yeah, so that's his career high in points.
Career high. Because I was like, I know he wasn't picked 59.
Yeah.
I knew that was for sure not it.
Mm-hmm.
But
there was
he scored 59. When did he? What was the game?
It was in 2016. I know that, on the Pelicans. I'm not sure who he was playing. But yeah, 59, there was no good draft picks or jersey numbers. I think there was only one person and one season ever for a jersey number. And then the best draft pick was Pat Cummings.
Okay.
So
on the NFL side, shout out to Roosevelt Colvin. That'll be episode 59.
For jersey number?
Yeah, that was just an outside linebacker for the Patriots in late 2000s, mid 2000s.
Yeah, pretty good years for the Patriots.
Yeah, they were pretty pivotal part of a pretty good defense. So
yeah, but yeah. So without further ado, though, we could probably hop into one of the more interesting topics that we wanted to touch on today, and that was the NBA GM survey, which every year has some interesting little things to talk about with it. I know that Jacob had a few things that he wanted to talk about, but I guess, do you want to just go through and talk about the things as they come up?
Yeah, I think that because my things are, I can't even remember like the exact sequence I had them, but there was just a couple things where I'm like, what?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why?
Yeah, there seems to be like one or two GMs in here that either don't take it seriously at all and are like messing with it, or are just like wild, crazy people. Yeah.
Yeah. I also think, what if it's not even GMs?
Like they're having somebody else do it?
Yeah, they just like get this little envelope and they're like, okay, Greg, it's your third day here. How about you fill this out?
Yeah.
And Greg is just like a diehard Kyrie Irving fan.
Mm-hmm. I also think one thing to keep in mind is I'm pretty sure the GMs that represent a certain organization aren't allowed to vote for any of their organization's players or teams or anything.
And that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So I don't think anybody can get 100%.
You can get 97.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think there's one where somebody was close to that.
I think Jokic was close. I think he had 93.
Best power forward was Giannis.
At 97?
At 97%.
Oh, okay.
Jokic was at 93.
That surprised me. I feel like Jokic is more like Anthony Davis is more closer to being a better power forward than Giannis than anybody is closer to being a better center than Jokic.
Anthony Davis received votes as center.
Only? Or both? I'm sure he was on both.
Well, I'm assuming he wasn't, because if everybody voted for Giannis as best power forward,
then only one vote went to Kevin Durant
was the only other one.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
And with that logic, we know who voted for Kevin Durant, because we can boil it down.
Yeah.
John Horst voted for Kevin Durant.
Exactly. Yeah, that's true. That's interesting, too. when it is like 100%, you can tell like everybody voted for one. You know who that other vote was.
I bet you Jokic was 2 votes away, because it was I'm blanking on his name.
Daryl Morey?
No. Denver and Minnesota. Those are the
Tim
two.
Conley?
Yeah, they both were like, no. Well, one couldn't, and the other one was like, I'm not going to do that. I can't do that.
Yeah, interesting. But so the first question on this thing is which team will win the 2024 NBA Finals? And it's a 2-way tie for first place. The Nuggets and the Celtics, both of our teams, both got 33% of the votes, which I think is a pretty good top two. Then it's a slight drop off to Milwaukee at 3 with 23%. And then the only other two teams receiving votes was the Suns got 2 votes and the Clippers got 1.
I think this is right. Like if you were to build tiers in your brain, I think they have the wrong LA team up there. Full transparency. If I were to build tiers in my head, I would put the Nuggets, Celtics in their tier. Nuggets probably edge the Celtics because they've done it.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'd go Bucks in the next tier, and I'd probably put the Suns and the Bucks in the same tier, but it would be like very clearly the Bucks are the better of the two teams in this imaginary deal.
I would probably, if I had to do it in tiers, I would probably put the Bucks personally up in that first tier.
In that first one.
Yeah.
And that makes sense to me. And maybe that's where.
But I do agree. I think they're probably the third out of those three teams.
Like it's a definitive third out of the three.
Yeah, I think so.
And then, honestly, maybe it's more of a definitive third because Boston isn't built to beat everybody better, but they're built to beat Milwaukee better than anybody else in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
Like they already kind of were, like kind of built to deal with Milwaukee's problems as long as Chris Middleton wasn't insane. But now that like the way that Milwaukee has shuffled things around, they're like, yeah, we're kind of just built to deal with the Dame problem and the Giannis.
Yeah, for sure.
Al Horford is like somehow, even though he's getting older, has handled Giannis in a mano-a-mano situation, short stretches, better than
good as anybody
to the best of anybody's ability. There's been times where like, okay, we need it. They put him on him and it just doesn't go well for Giannis, which isn't normal. Doesn't happen. He makes him take mid-ranges, which is not a Giannis's MO. So,
yeah.
But we'll talk about the Celtics and the Nuggets a ton. But I just think that I was okay with it. Clippers should not be there. Even if everybody's healthy, I'm like, I would still put LA's the Lakers like
over the Clippers. Yeah.
If you're going to throw any random vote,
you said even if everybody's healthy.
If everybody's healthy and 100% and plays all there's just too many like ifs.
Yeah.
It's like fantasy imaginary land.
It's just we've never seen the Clippers actually do that. Actually be healthy, and you know what I mean? So it's like, how likely is it that it's finally going to happen? It's probably not very likely.
Yeah.
But I understand like the thinking of like, oh, maybe it's got to be their year now. After all of this injury and stuff, they're bound to have a year where it breaks right. But I don't know at this point. But yeah, and then looking at the Eastern Conference rankings, Boston is in first with 53% of the first place votes. Then Milwaukee is in second, Cleveland third, Philadelphia fourth, New York fifth, Miami sixth, and Atlanta is seventh. Those are all the teams that received one of the top four votes. So it was like a 4-place ballot thing.
Atlanta in fourth is a little weird to me.
Yeah. Again, that's just one GM voting that again. It feels like there's always just one vote on all of these that are like, who is this guy? You know what I mean?
But my thought, okay, like I get the top six, a guy throwing a vote and being like, okay, we'll go Milwaukee 1, Boston 2, Philly 3, Miami 4. I'd be like, okay, not what I would have done, but that's fine.
Yeah.
Any iteration of Boston, Milwaukee at 1 and 2, whatever you want to do with Cleveland, Philly, New York, and Miami, that's fine. I don't 100% agree with you, but I get it. But being like Atlanta,
it's fourth. Yeah, it's
like
it
they
feels
seem
weird.
like they're on a downward trajectory. It's not even like they're on the up and up. This isn't 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also Miami is like, I don't know if you saw they got a vote in first place and a vote in second place. So that might be the same guy that's putting Atlanta up there in fourth. Who knows?
Jeez Louise.
But yeah,
his third place vote was like, wait. So looking at this math wise, then.
Oh yeah, that doesn't make any sense at all.
That means someone didn't put Boston or Milwaukee in their top four.
Yeah. It had to be that guy. There's just got to be somebody that's flubbing
two people didn't. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, true. It would have to be 2.
Is it Kendrick Perkins like filling out for somebody? What is going on?
Yeah, it's weird. That's why I feel like, I don't know if the GMs take this fully like 100% seriously. Sometimes I don't know if like they're like joking around with it, like they just want to be funny or something, or what is going on sometimes. But it's interesting. Looking at the Western Conference, though, this is more of a like definitive gap. Denver has 70% of the first place votes. Phoenix is in second. Lakers are in third. Warriors, then Clippers. Memphis is sixth, and then there's a 2-way tie for seventh with Pelicans and Kings. and then 9th is the Mavs, and 10th is the Thunder. Those are everybody getting at least a 4th place vote.
So then my question on this one is, I'm glad that everybody thinks the Sacramento thing might not be repeatable. That makes sense to me. The New Orleans one I find very interesting.
Really?
Because I know that New Orleans has like the capability as a team to be good.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing as like the Clippers.
Yeah.
But I have less faith in, and I guess the Clippers received 23% of the votes to go to 3rd. So just shy of a quarter of the votes thought that they would get 3rd place. Yeah. And there was just some random votes for New Orleans. I just don't. And it's not like everyone's like, okay, rank the entire. Someone thought that New Orleans would be a 2 seed.
Yeah, there's 1 vote for 2 and 1 vote for 4th for New Orleans.
And the 4th, I'm fine with. I'm also fine with the 4th place vote for OKC.
Yeah, I agree. But I think you just said last episode, if New Orleans is fully healthy, they are the 4th seed in the West.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I guess I stand by that once again. I echo myself in the future. But I'm like, I just don't get some of these. And it's fine.
This is the one I think that is the craziest to me, honestly. The Mavs being the 4th seed is a bit far-fetched.
The only way that I think is if we get like a month into the season and Kyrie's like, I'm done. And then LA's like, okay. And then does the magical 2 people. I need to figure out what the 2 people are.
I know it's Russ. It's D'Lo and Rui.
It is those 2.
Yeah.
You just put them together and they perfectly equal Kyrie.
Yeah.
But maybe
I don't know if that makes the Mavs that much better. Like, it might make them better if Kyrie's a nothing for them. Like, it depends on whether Kyrie's playing well for, actually contributing.
Well, I think it makes them better because it gives them more things to just be around Luka, which is when they're best, is when Luka's going crazy and distributing. That's how they dealt with the Clippers twice in the playoffs. That's just how they have dealt with it.
But I think that is like that system is such a floor raiser type of thing. But it's one of the best methods of raising your floor. That's why they always have resorted to that, because it's very simple and it's like very safe. Mm-hmm. But I think Kyrie being on this roster, instead of swapping him out for D'Lo and Rui, I think that is actually
the ceiling raiser.
The ceiling. Yeah, I think if for them to be at their very best potential this season, it's with Kyrie, like fully buying in and playing in the role that is kind of carved out for him there.
Yeah, and just committing to it, just being like, okay.
Mm-hmm. And Luka staying healthy and also learning to play off of Kyrie at moments and things like that. So Mark
Cuban needs to get Kyrie Irving to block LeBron on his phone.
Yeah.
That's the best way that happens.
Yeah. I mean,
don't listen to the sweet whispers from the West Coast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It won't be better over there.
Yeah. But it's just, this team is just, there's not a lot going on there. And it's just, it's a hard one to imagine getting the 4th spot at the end of the season.
Yeah.
Maybe at some point during the year we look up and if at 4th place, that's
3 votes for 4th.
Yeah.
Okay, but we've been focusing on the bottom. I think what is impressive is the just sheer unanimous agreement that 1st and 2nd, 3rd place will be some combination. Well, 1st place is the Nuggets, 70% of the league, 20% of votes went for the Nuggets, or 21 votes went for Nuggets.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then like Phoenix has 50% of the 2nd place votes, and then Lakers are pretty well acknowledged, and Golden State. Like the top is widely agreed upon. And then it's just kind of like who 4th place is, people just throwing lasers, throwing darts, with some of the darts making no sense. Memphis also is going to be terrible.
I don't know about terrible.
They're not a 4 seed. They're not a 3 seed. 2 people thought they were a 3 seed. Jaw's gone for 25 games, and if I know anything, Marcus Smart as your point guard is not a recipe for crazy wins unless Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and a whole lot of other people like make up for the hold on, guys, I got this.
And they don't have anybody like that on their team.
No, they don't, and that's fine. I mean, Desmond Bane's a guy, but he's not that.
Yeah, I agree.
He's not a top 3, like
at his position.
Yeah.
Type of guy, yeah.
Jaylen Brown isn't either, but
he's closer at least. He was
much closer.
Yeah.
Wildly closer.
He's a top. Last year he was top 6 at forward or whatever you want to. Or I think he was a guard on All NBA. Whatever though, whatever he was, he made it. So, but yeah, that I guess can do it for the Western Conference. I like seeing the Denver Nuggets getting the respect of the GMs across the league. And then the next question was, who will win the 2023-24 Kia MVP? And Nikola Jokic is in first place with 43%. Giannis is second with 20%. Tatum is in third with 13. Luka is in fourth with 10. And then also receiving votes, we have Anthony Davis, and then Kevin Durant, Joel Embiid, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Let's go!
Yeah, which is nice to see. But yeah, I think this one is the most solid so far. Like the one weird one, I think, is Anthony Davis, and that's not even that weird.
I think that's like going off the assumption that he takes a step and LeBron takes a slight step back, and Anthony Davis just like it goes into kill mode a little bit more often. Because I mean, we said it when we did our top 10 players. If Anthony Davis like can just like string together health and I want to be better than everyone else for at least 40 games, like which
he said. I don't know if he's ever said this before, but he said, I don't know if you saw this in media day, that he wants to play 82 games this season. His goal is to play all 82.
And if he does, that GM, that random GM, will look like a genius. Well, it's not really a genius. Anthony Davis is good at basketball. What? Like that's not. Genius is a bit strong, but this is a question I had. I think that this is by far the most logical one for sure. Does Giannis having Dame diminish his MVP chances?
For sure, I think it definitely does.
Because that was my only thing. Was like, is 20% too high?
Oh yeah, I mean it could be. I think Jokic should be a heavy favorite going into the season. Honestly, I think there's like going to be a bit of a reverse of a voters fatigue thing, where it's like a voters remorse, like
or of a vindication. They will be like, we need to give this man the MVP.
It's like a makeup award.
He was a makeup call.
Yeah.
And especially if he has a similar performance to how he did last year.
Yeah.
I feel like he will get. Like, let's say Giannis does have a crazy year, and it's like a very close contested thing. Voters will just lean Jokic because he was robbed of last year's.
Yeah, I think that is probably true. Also, I think Jokic is just going to be more clear, unless Jamal looks like is playoff Jamal like the whole season, which would be very new.
You're going for 70 games if Jamal looks like playoff Jamal the whole season.
Exactly, yeah.
Like that's like a legitimate possibility.
Yeah, but if that doesn't happen, if Jamal looks like maybe even just like a slightly better version of what he's been in regular seasons past, then Jokic is going to be far and away the vastly more superior player on his team than Giannis
Any
is
of the
on
other guys
team.
on the list.
Yeah.
Because Tatum has Brown, Luka has Kyrie, AD has LeBron, KD has
Booker,
Beal, revival of Eric Gordon's career. Joel is I feel like he got his one, and I don't think that voters, unless he's crazy, I just don't think that he will get. Shai's a guy that if OKC messes around and is like a 3 seed, a 2 seed, like there's a world where Shai will be like, okay, give that guy some flowers.
I agree.
And speaking of OKC, we'll just throw it in randomly. We need to talk. So Bill Simmons podcast did an OKC deep dive, and they brought up 1 point, and I'm like, I'm losing sleep over wanting it to happen.
What is this? Do you want to bring it up now, or
we can do it now?
Where were you thinking on putting it in?
Just like at the end, just like randomly somewhere else, like just to bring it up. But I can do it now, and it can get put wherever. Anyway, so Bill Simmons podcast. If you haven't listened to our podcast for that long, we both listen to it. Maybe not religiously. Like I catch a decent amount of the episodes. I usually turn it off during NFL season because I can't handle. As a Patriot fan, the sheer optimism because we're a bad football team, we're really bad, and he like doesn't let New England die, which is fine.
He did the other year though, like
he did this last episode too. He like gave him burial rights.
Oh, he did.
The only reason I clicked on this one is because it said Oklahoma City Thunder is like in the title of the podcast, and I'm like,
and Kevin, I think it said Kevin O'Connor also in the title.
Kevin O'Connor, who is also last year was the first year Kevin O'Connor has not been like the the way I feel, the national voice of the way I feel.
Mm-hmm.
Like last year was the first year he took like a weird pivot. I'm not near as high on him as he was on like legendary French point guard Killian Hayes or other people. But anyway, focusing on the point, they talked about OKC and what they need. And they're like, okay, what about like they go get like Gobert? Like if like Minnesota decides they want to move on from Gobert or Cat or Robert Williams, they just started throwing out names of bigs because they just don't have a thick body. They have a big body in Wemby, but they don't have a thick body to deal with the Jokic, Embiids.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have that guy.
Yeah.
When they brought up Robert Williams, I'm like, that would be so great. I would get a Robert Williams jersey. I would be like all in because I still love Rob Williams the third.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
But it's just like I was like, okay, that'd be cool. And then, but when they said Cat, I was like, okay, that'd give him the floor would still be able to be stretched. It would leave stuff open for Giddey, who can't shoot that well, and Shea, who can't shoot that well. That's the one knock that those guys have. But like if you send Lou Dort, the Dorture Chamber, and Davis Bertans, did I say that one right? Random person?
I think so. Yeah.
Don't you remember when we got that TikTok comment that said it's Burtons, not Burtons, or Bertans, not Bertans? Same, spelled the exact same way.
Yeah.
But I just like, what do you think, like, the fit of Cat on this team or of just a big, thick body but can still stretch the floor? I feel like that is
so awesome. Not Gobert. Or
not
you
Gobert.
want to think about both?
I just like, what is a big on this team that you think of like, okay, value-wise, it'd have to be for like a Dort and a Bertans and like maybe a couple, like it wouldn't be an insane.
Oh, you're saying put them in the trade.
Yeah, they'd be gone.
Okay, I thought you were talking. I thought you were talking about like a starting lineup at first.
Oh no,
I was
no,
like
no,
Bertans starting, but yeah.
No. Their starters would be Shea, Giddey,
Jalen Williams.
Jalen Williams. If they lose Dort, that gets a little bit like
but still they'd have Jalen Williams, Chet,
or maybe they go get that defensive 3-and-D guy, like to replace Dort with just
instead of
a better Dort. Yeah. Well, they also have the ability to see, now my mind's going wild, and I'm just thinking of like every player in the NBA, because if there's ever a player that's like, oh, I don't really like where I'm at, I kind of want to be gone. OKC would be like, we will give you $7 over value and not care and just keep walking through it. No big deal. Especially with how many picks they have.
Yeah. True. So if they throw in a lot of picks to Minnesota, that might work to get Cat.
But if Cat's like not happy or they choose to move on.
Yeah.
Because another name they said, but I don't think is realistic, was Embiid.
Oh, dude, I don't think I made it this far in this. I don't remember any of these. So I don't think I got very far in it. I remember starting to listen to it, but I guess I didn't finish it. But yeah, so that's interesting though. But it kind of just goes against, that video that you were talking about from Sam Presti about how, talking about pushing in all your chips to but the thing
is, they have so many chips, it wouldn't even be all of them.
Yeah, probably not.
But then, in the podcast, they also brought up like, if this team opens up 20-4 or something disgusting, their last time they had a crazy young promising core, they won one game in the NBA Finals, and then they didn't get aggressive, and then everything kind of fell apart.
Yeah, and the big thing there, I think, that is probably the side, like the backbreaker, was losing James Harden for nothing. For nothing, yeah. They lost him for Kevin Martin and a pick or something like that. Jeremy Lamb.
And I think that, and then they were like, okay, will Presti be like, I'm not letting that happen again. I'm going to, if the team looks like they're primed to be that good, like if Shea does take like a little step and is able to like go toe to toe with any guy and be the best guy on the court, depending on the day, like he can step up and do that. Do they push chips to the middle and go find that big or that defensive 3-and-D wing type of guy? I think they also said Paul George in the podcast as like another guy, bring him back, reunion. That would be interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Those are all interesting ideas. I do like I didn't come up with any of them. All of those were the Bill Simmons podcast and Kevin O'Connor that was on there. Yeah. So I am not that smart. But I did know that they need a thick body. Like
Yeah.
that was something that is acknowledged by I think most people that like pay attention to roster construction.
Yeah, because even like their bigger guys in terms of like thickness are like not very tall.
Mm-hmm.
Like Arkansas Jalen Williams and JRE. That's about it. Like Chet is by far, their biggest, most like center like player, but he's again
He can protect the rim against everybody that's not a big body.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he's probably more ideal as like that roamer four type of player, like an Evan Mobley, what he's used as. So
Jarrett Allen was another name they brought up.
Yeah, that would be good, honestly, if the Cavs would be willing to move on from that, which I don't know why they would.
If they like think that Mobley and Allen can't be conducive together,
they need to go get a floor spacer at the 5.
Yeah,
that would make sense. But yeah, interesting. But I guess we can keep going on the GM survey if you want to.
Yep.
Or
I threw a lot of things at it, but it just was something I heard that I'm like,
yeah, no, it is.
This would be like so wild.
Yeah. I think that would open a lot of stuff up for them. I think Gobert less so on OKC just because already they don't have a lot of shooting.
Mm-hmm.
But Cat would be very, very interesting on the Thunder. I think that's one of the best teams I've thought of for Cat so far. That I've actually like put hypothetical in my brain. But
and the thing is, he would like the question about Cat is not if he can win games; it's if he can win games as the number one option. Mm-hmm. And he wouldn't have to.
Yeah, with Shaq.
Because he's the second option or third, depending on how crazy things get. So
with either Chet or Giddey.
Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly. Yeah, true. But and I think that's his personality. Cat is more of a kind of submissive, like would I didn't mean it like in a negative way.
No, it's just funny. There's just a random word to come out there that I wasn't ready for.
Yeah, like he's just more of the passive. Maybe passive is the better word for it.
Yes,
but he kind of just like drops or kind of, I don't know what the word is, but like retreats to the
shadows
background. Like he kind of seems like
he's happy to have Ant there.
Yeah. It feels like he's happier playing just like the perimeter stretch 5 role and not really having to do much else outside of that, which he's getting paid way too much money for somebody that just is going to do those things. But yeah, anyways, the next question on the GM survey though was if you're starting a franchise today and could sign any player in the NBA, who would it be? And Nikola Jokic was first place with 1/3 of the votes. Then Victor Wembanyama was second with 23%. Giannis is third with 13. Luka fourth with 10. And Anthony Edwards fifth with 7. And then there's some other players also receiving votes. Steph Curry getting one. Joel Embiid getting one, which is the wildest one here, I think. And then Shea and Tatum were the other two that got one each.
Not that he's not a great player. Why is Jokic so high? Because like the it's been kind of a joke, and we've brought it up. How long is Jokic playing?
Yeah, I think that
it's been blown out of proportion. He's not going to retire in 2 years.
I think he'll actually play for a good. Like I think adding Jokic to your team right now, I think the reason why he's so high is because you can say this more about him than anybody in the league by far. That adding Jokic to your team right now makes you like somewhat of a title contender for the next like 6 or 7 years.
Yeah. Also, I would full transparency add Jokic for sure. That would be the guy that I pick. Mm-hmm. But it's more the like Wemby is like this crazy.
Yeah, but the thing there is like he sets you up for a longer stretch, a longer window probably, but the actual window, the likeliness of it happening is not 100% guaranteed
like it is now.
With Jokic, it's like that it's like definitely there. It's proven that he can lead a team to the NBA Finals and beat just about any team that's matching up with him. So he's just it's like a surefire pick type of thing, a proven pick. And he's not super old. He's only 28. And his game is like built to last also.
Yeah. It just depends on if his love of the game is built to last. No, he loves basketball. That's been blown out of proportion, but it's more the
like a lot. I think but I understand it because I think that's a lot of people that are more NBA casuals, which is a term I have wanted to get away from, but it's just the one that's coming to mind. People who just, aren't nerds about basketball. I think that what they like to think of Jokic as is just like, oh wow, it's crazy that he's the best player in the world and he like doesn't even care about he doesn't even like basketball. So that's what people want to see. And so that's what I think Jokic honestly he likes that's the narrative about him. And I 100% believe that ever since this finals run and ever since the whole narrative around all of the NBA has become about like, oh, Jokic is the best player on the planet. He doesn't even like basketball. Like ever since then in interviews, he's been saying things that he just never said before.
He just leaned into it. Just
exactly.
And I was going to say it's the interviews, like even before, where he just would like say things just like, he just isn't the stereotypical guy of like, I love ball. The way that like, and even if he does, he doesn't convey it in the same way that other people, and that's fine. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But that's just it. And for the person that doesn't consume every bit of basketball, that just sees like random, oh, that guy's the MVP. That's the best dude on the planet.
Yeah.
He just is like talking about horses after they asked him a question about his basketball philosophy.
Yeah. I think the reason why, because I think in American culture, we really link ambitions, like personal ambitions with like your drive in basketball. Like we think those are kind of like the same thing, but to him, that's how I feel like that's always been the difference. Like when he's asked questions about his personal ambitions or goals or what he thinks, what he's striving for, or like, things like that. He's just always like, I don't know. I don't think about that. I just play basketball basically. And it like more like the questions about, competitiveness in like certain matchups with other players, or who's the best player on the planet, who's the best player on his own team. Even, he's always said like, I don't feel like it's safe to call me, like this is a quote from him, I don't think it's safe to call me the best player on the Nuggets because sometimes I'm the best player, but sometimes Jamal's the best player. Sometimes MPJ is the best player. Like, and that's just, I don't know. I think that's why that type of thing is why people started to get that narrative in the past, and also just how much he likes to talk about home and stuff like that. But then I feel like once he started to see that become the narrative, now he's like basically like, oh yeah, I didn't touch a basketball all summer, and saying things like that, kind of leaning into it. But yeah, that's my theory, at least, because I know from conversations and interviews that he has had in the past where it's like purely about like the schematics of the game and like the beauty, what he sees as like the beauty of basketball. When he's talking about that, he lights up and like he's more engaged than he ever has been in interviews, like talking about that kind of thing. You can tell that he really does care about basketball and he enjoys it. So
no, and it's just a thing that's got blown out of proportion, but and I get that totally makes sense. Also, the window, like it's now, it's like a now window thing
for sure. Yeah, and then the next question. Well, I guess any other surprises there? Yeah, Joel
Embiid being there is wild. The only reason Steph Curry being there is wild because you maybe have 2 more years of him being the guy.
Yeah,
I don't want to like put a timer on him, but I feel like he's way older than people think. Just because he really exploded onto the scene
later,
like 6 years into his career, is when like he was like the crazy shimmying. All of the highlights you see are year 6 Steph Curry,
and he went 3 years at Davidson in college.
So it's just he's just older than you think he is. Embiid is, I think, proven in and out he's not like capable of being the guy.
At least it's not like a surefire thing. We don't know for sure if he can be yet, and it's like he hasn't made it to the conference finals yet in his career, and he's had great teammates. And
yeah.
So that's my take on that. Luka, I feel like should be maybe a little bit higher. Like Luka might make more sense than Giannis. Maybe I don't know. I take that back because Giannis is a similar thing to Jokic, where it's like getting him right now. Yeah.
And then the other thing is maybe because like teams lean into like what's working. So because Luka is almost the opposite of what Jokic does. not complete
in a
opposite
weird way. Yeah,
but they're like they don't.
They're very similar in some ways, but like kind of the inverse of each other.
It's like if it's a circle, they're like right here, but it's like they're just like far away from each other in terms of the complete circle.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is it because teams are like, oh, what Jokic is doing is working, and not wanting to build a team like in a way that because everybody in the NBA is moving towards the Jokic-ish, trying to like have this
movement system around moving the ball around the elbow and people cutting off of and just doing all that kind of stuff. Like moving without the ball is the big thing.
Yes. And so if because that's what the Warriors did, they just didn't have the Jokic piece.
Yeah.
The piece that was running was they had like, is that what people are leaning into? And like Luka doesn't open that up for you because that's not what Luka does. He doesn't. Mm-hmm. He does a lot of the things in terms of setting up other teammates because of how much he attracts, but not. It's like, just a different thing. Is that part of why he doesn't have more? Because like as GMs that are like, okay, got to catch up. This is what's breaking basketball at the moment is this crazy movement system. And Luka doesn't lean into that like the Jokic does and like the Wemby could. You know what I mean? Like, is that part of it maybe?
I think that is probably part of it. I think the reason why some people did vote for him though is because like you can make the excuse for him that like for the teams that he's had so far in his career, you know the way that they've built around him and the way that he's played has just been the best option for them because he hasn't had really teammates to play that way with for the most part. Like with Luka, his skills are just like it makes it so Jokic. Like the way things work with Jokic is like you want a good ball handler to pair with him. So it's important to have a teammate like a Jamal Murray for that system to work as good as possible. But like Luka is like both Jokic and Murray in the Dallas system, if that makes sense. Like he's like he brings the ball. Not only does he initiate like by bringing the ball up the court and getting it to like start the action, he's also the primary ball handler in the action itself. And then like all of the scoring options that come off of that is either a shot from him or a direct assist from him. You know, it's like all orchestrated by him, centered around him. Jokic is like the threat of what he has is what is going to cause the defense to make an adjustment. And Jokic, every play of the game is just playing an option read essentially of like, if the defense gives me this is where I'm going to move the ball. And I'm trusting my teammates to continue that set to take advantage of what the defense has given up.
And then when they don't do it, he'll like tell them after the play.
Yeah.
Next time that happens, do this instead. And then the teammate does it. And then it's always an easy bucket. Always.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's similar to a LeBron thing. LeBron does that kind of stuff a lot too. But
which is, I mean, we'll have some pod. Maybe it's after this next season where it's like, Is Jokic tickling like a top 10 that's not just of like his era? Like is he like dabbling his way to just
I think he's close to
that's what, like as
like
a Pantheon guy. Like is he almost
if he wins the title this season and the MVP, I think like this upcoming season, I think that kind of really gets him a spot like right at the end of the top 10 range. Honestly, like
for sure. And then if he does it, like, if he like, let's say he only plays till he's 35. We won't do the short. We won't do the crazy long. We'll just stop at 35, a middle-ish ground. We'll call it there.
Yeah.
If he has 5 more seasons like he did last year,
and say like 3 rings, or how many rings you saying?
We'll say 2 rings.
2 rings.
We'll shoot low and 3 MVPs. That's insane. Let's say 1 MVP. 1 more MVP, so he ends his career.
You were saying 3 more?
Sorry, he ends with 4.
Okay.
Yeah, let's say he ends his career with 4 MVPs and 3 rings.
Oh, and 3 rings.
And he's like is it going to be like just the best decade of basketball anybody's ever played?
Yeah, I think that's at least a Tim Duncan caliber. That'd be probably even higher.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, is he just the best center of all time if he does that craziness?
Could be. He could be over Kareem, so that would put him 3rd all time of everybody.
That's
yeah.
And it's like what's weird is like you say those crazy things, and that's not a given at all. Mm-hmm. But you know what? It's not impossible. Like, I'm not like, that's not delusional for
No.
Jokic to get 2 more rings in 7 years.
Yeah.
And one more MVP.
Yeah.
Or 2 more MVPs.
Or 2 more MVPs. Yeah. Which I maybe I honestly feel better about the 2 more rings than I do the 2 more MVPs. Like this year, I feel really good about another MVP, but after that, I'm not sure. You know,
and that could be that's just crazy to think that.
But one interesting topic about this is how this one season that he just had was just about as big of a leap that you can make in the all-time standings or all-time rankings. And every jump after this is going to be very marginal because everybody above him now is so hard to pass.
And it's not even like that, like, he might be clearly a better player than X, but like people are like, well, I can't move him above
Shaq.
Like, that's a perfect name of like, well, I can't do that. That'd be crazy.
Yeah. But you
could. I can't put him above. I'm trying to think of like Shaq's. That's the perfect name. That's the name that he does so much and had the most dominant moment. Like, no one is stopping this human being if he doesn't want to be stopped.
Yeah.
Compared to anybody else. So Shaq's a perfect name to be like, that'll just be hard for people to be like, okay, wow.
Yeah.
This guy that is just Jokic isn't is just better than Shaq.
Yeah.
That's wild to think about.
It's also,
that is even like a realm of possibility.
Yeah, for sure. It's also just wild to think that he last season, before the start of this past season, wasn't even a top 75 player. Like he wasn't, if you don't remember, he wasn't put in.
He wasn't in the top 75.
No, Giannis was, but Jokic was not in the top 75.
But Giannis was like weirdly high, wasn't he?
Well, I don't think they have an order.
Oh, they didn't technically do an order.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think that if you look up, there is like they have totals for points, like a number of votes. If you they have that listed out, but I don't know if I don't think they made that their official like ranking in order. They just kind of have like this is the top 75, which is technically 76, which is still annoying to me that they couldn't. How do you mess something like that up? Just because there's a tie for the 75th and 76th person, can't you just like cut it off to make it an actual 76 or 75? You know what I mean?
Or have everybody just vote on those two. Which one?
Pick one. Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, so I'm pretty sure it was James Worthy? No, I don't think he's in there. So there was somebody is like the 76th person. Or, 2 people are tied for that 75th. But regardless, what I was saying was Nikola Jokic was not in the top 75 players of all time, and now he's like top 15.
It was Bill Sharman and Dame Lillard.
Oh, they were at the very end?
They were the tie, I guess.
Yeah. And see, like Dame Lillard versus Jokic all time right now, like that's not even a competition. You know what I mean?
Dave Bing, Billy Cunningham, and okay, this is on ESPN. Is that who did the NBA 75? Huh?
Sorry, before I answer that question, what did you just start to say? Ant? You said Ant?
Anthony Davis.
Oh, okay.
My brain shut off.
Okay,
that'd be wild.
Yeah, I was like, wait, what happened? But what was your question? You said
this is on ESPN though, so this might not be.
Oh, I mean, I don't know where they would get.
They made a list.
Oh,
they took the name from NBA's team
and ranked them. Okay,
and then ranked them and made a list.
I think it's on NBA.com because that's who did it.
That's where I'm looking now. Okay.
That's who made the list. It was NBA.com.
And it doesn't tell you who has the tie.
Oh, they didn't. I thought
I'm looking at one. I just see alphabetically.
Maybe I didn't see it. It was just
they
Bill
did
Simmons.
List that there was a tie.
Yeah, I think Bill Simmons might have said it on a podcast. Like he knew which one was tied, maybe because he voted on it.
Which that would be an all-time like level to get to. That'd be dope
to be able to vote on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I think I don't know if we even went into the next question yet. I think I started to, but
no, we didn't. We did not jump into it.
Yeah. The next question though is which player forces opposing coaches to make the most adjustments? Steph Curry was number 1 with 40%. Jokic was second with 33. Giannis was third with 13. Luka was fourth with 10. And Joel was fifth with 3. So he had 1 vote. Which again, it's got to be the same person, right? That's putting in Embiid. Yeah.
And like we'll talk about the man that loves Grant Williams here in a couple minutes.
Yeah, that's true. But Steph, I like this one. I don't see any problems with except the Joel Embiid one, honestly.
The Joel Embiid was like weird, but give another vote to one of the top 4 guys, maybe. Like I just don't know if there's not like another guy where I'm like, because every team, if you're a good coach, you adjust to every like system.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. You're not going to trot out the same game plan if you played Philly one night and Boston the next. Mm-hmm. You're not going to be like, okay, let's lock down the center. Like that's just not. In
terms of things like philosophies that are like, oh, and every time, every situation, you always do this. But the one exception is when you're playing this guy. Like Steph is like the ultimate example of that. I feel like in terms of like how you play screens and how you just switch on screens and play defense like that and communicate and do that. Like all of those things are different when you're playing against Steph Curry.
Because you're playing Steph. Yeah. Similar thing to a lesser extent with Jokic. Mm-hmm. Giannis is a similar deal. Like
without the whole team has to kind of help on his drives and stuff.
Yes. Yeah. You have to build a wall unless it's Al Horford. Then it just kind of just kidding. Al Horford's not the only guy that can do that, but Bam's another one. There's just some guys that can.
Kawhi when he needed to in that Raptors series.
Every once in a while, one guy can build the wall, but it is very, very rare that it happens. And it's not even every possession. They like, okay, we need a couple. We need you to lock up a couple stops. But anyway, that was also one that I didn't have a huge lot of issues with.
Yeah. Next one is one that I think we both had a little bit of a problem with. Is which player is most likely to have a breakout season this year? And number 1 is Anthony Edwards, which I like at 23%.
I have 2 problems with this one.
Okay, can I?
Yeah, sorry. First? Go ahead.
And then second is Cade Cunningham at 20%. Third is Franz Wagner, which I like a lot at 13%. Paolo Banchero is tied for 4th with Tyrese Maxey, both receiving 7%. And then the other guys receiving votes, which is quite a few. There's Desmond Bane, Mikal Bridges, Tyrese Halliburton, Chet Holmgren, Kyrie Irving, Jaden McDaniels, Evan Mobley, Alperen Şengün, Zion Williamson, and that was that last one, Zion Williamson. So, which is interesting. There's a few on here that are the main one being Kyrie Irving. Obviously, it's the one that jumps out, which I understand slightly. I barely understand the logic of this, of just like, can you call it a breakout? Like, because maybe this is going to be the season where he actually locks in to basketball and like, the basketball becomes like the center part of what he's focused on and not all this other crap all the time,
Yeah.
So I can see it from that perspective. Like if that does happen and we see Kyrie actually playing basketball a lot, then you could call that a breakout season kind of like not really, not into the purest sense of like what you think of as like a breakout season.
Yeah, and I agree with you because my other thing was, well, if Kyrie Irving's on this list, I would like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to be on this list.
Yeah,
like if that's the logic they're going with.
Mm-hmm. And also one that I didn't even have this thought until right now that I'm like kind of not mad. I'll reserve that for stronger reactions, but I'm a little like flustered about Jamal Murray didn't get a single vote. Like, I feel like that's one of the more obvious ones of like, he has yet to have like a good regular season, but he's a guy that everybody, as ESPN just posted, put him 17th best player in the world right now. But yet he has not been an all-star or he's never even been in consideration really for an all-star. And like justifiably, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, it's not because he's been snubbed over and over again.
Yeah, exactly. So if he's the 17th best player in the world and he has yet to even make an all-star like case, like isn't that bound to happen this year? You would think.
Yeah, I don't know. This was a dumb question. I didn't like this question.
Why not?
It's like when a third-year guy gets a most improved player. I'm like, yeah, but also, a second-year guy. A second-year guy gets most improved. You're just like, okay, I guess, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a question that's valid. Anthony Edwards getting the most votes. Big fan of that.
Yeah.
Cade being on there.
I love that.
Banchero. Maxey was one that I'm like, if situations go right, Maxey would win this in a way. Like,
Yeah.
Depending on how things shake out, it
With
could
Harden.
be just like Maxey being
the replacement for Harden, basically.
the guy. So I think that I like Maxey being on there as well. Desmond Bain, I think will look really good the first 25 with Ja out. I think he'll be kind of that one. I mean, I didn't not like any of the names except Kyrie. I'm like, that's some
Kyrie,
weird
and then
logic.
Jaden McDaniel's a little bit weird too, just because like I feel like last year was his breakout for the most part. Like, what is Jaden McDaniels going to do beyond be like a really effective 3-and-D wing?
Well, then like Evan Mobley, I would also put on that. Like he's already kind of had his like, oh, this is what I can do. He can go another level, and maybe that's what they're predicting. For Mobley, but
for more of like developing his offensive game. I feel like
nobody believes in Evan Mobley more than you.
Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. And I think this could definitely be an Evan Mobley breakout. In that terms of like of him being like the focal point of a team, like your number one, not necessarily number one offensively, but like as like your center of your team.
Yeah.
What did you say?
He's no Peyton Pritchard. Just saying about the offensive explosion thing. Getting a vote. I guess maybe him actually having like the minutes. It won't be because like, oh, he's a different player. It's because he's actually getting like played. He'll be like our 6th or 7th man. Peyton Pritchard, yeah.
So you're saying if he were to be voted in this,
I wouldn't hate. I don't think he needs to be, at all. Mm-hmm. But
but I honestly think that Jamal should be a guy that's like it's like almost a no brainer type of pick for one of these spots to me.
I feel like it's because he's already been acknowledged as a very good player.
But like he has not had a good, not even like a good season in comparison to what he's regarded as league wide.
Well, I think that's why he has not been like. That's why there's not he didn't come to people's mind because of that.
Yeah,
because he's already acknowledged as the top.
That's what I was saying the other episode when we talked about this. Like, it's the most interesting player to me because like there's nobody else all time in the history of basketball that is like he's regarded as a top 20 even player in the league, and he's like not even like his regular season. It's like only in the playoffs has he shown what he's capable of. You know what I mean? Regular season, he's not even been close to being an all-star. Like if you made a second all-star team, I feel like he's probably made that a couple times. But what did you just react
San
to?
Francisco just missed a field goal and are going to lose to Cleveland. That's wild. That's wild.
Is Cleveland really bad?
Deshaun Watson's out. So P.J. Walker just beat the undefeated previously San Francisco 49ers.
Oh, they were undefeated. Okay.
But no, the 49ers were looked like this juggernaut best team in football. Good luck beating them. And then P.J. Walker said, I'm a better quarterback than never mind. I'm going to stop talking because that was going to go down a ha-ha funny, silly rabbit hole that I did. Yeah, we'll go back to basketball, but that's wild.
The last name on here that I wanted to touch on was Mikal Bridges. It's kind of interesting to me just because of like how much higher can he really go than what we just saw from him last year.
I think it's because it was only part of the season.
Yeah.
Like if he does it for a whole season, he keeps his Iron Man thing, plays 82 games and looks like he did after the trade deadline. Mm-hmm. Like it's not a breakout because you've seen it, but it's also like, oh, he can do it. Like it's not just this is a new area. I'm going to ball out for a little bit. It's like a legitimate thing.
Yeah.
Don't think that there's just a couple guys where it just got rough, but if you just had to like sit there and think breakout season, I don't think I'd think of Mikal Bridges.
Yeah, me neither. Just because like I feel like if you saw the breakout happen last year, it's kind of cheating to say, oh well, him doing that all the next year is like, which I guess could be
and it might be one vote.
You could say I'm contradicting myself with that. Like if you say like I'm contradicting my logic with the Jamal Murray thing. Because we've seen him do it in the playoffs, but we haven't seen him do it in the regular season. But fair point to the person who didn't actually say that, but I just imagined saying that. The other guy also, though, I lied. There's one more person, Chet Holmgren. It's kind of weird to see his name here just because this is his rookie season, technically.
Because, where's Wemby? If that's your
he's
logic.
Not even played a game yet, so it's kind of weird to put him on here, but Yeah. Next one though. Now we're going into the positions, which I don't love.
It's dumb.
Yeah, I don't like how they do positions in the NBA. It's interesting, but as we'll soon find out, who is the best point guard in the NBA is this first question, and we've got Steph Curry as first place with 63%. Luka Doncic is second with 27%. SGA is third with 7%, and fourth is Dame Lillard with 3%. So he got one vote. And I don't really see any problems with this, really. Honestly,
because in terms of, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, if you are listing Luka as a point guard, then that's fine. And I think this is probably the top four, honestly. And the percentages make sense.
For sure. The only thing is Luka's going to get hurt here a little bit because of the half of the world that point guard, half the world that goes, shooting guard. Yeah. Just ball dominant. So that's where he's going to run into troubles. And then the shooting,
for a spoiler, he's in the top 3 for point guard, shooting guard, and small forward. So which has to hurt his, ability to win one of the categories.
There's one guy that voted for him for all 3.
Probably, honestly.
But if you add his stuff together, Luka received 27, 7, and 17. So that's a decent number of votes.
Yeah, to be the best
good
in
at
something.
Basketball.
Yeah.
Not just good, the best at something. Yeah, that's a good. But that's a for sure top 4, and I don't hate the percentages either.
Yeah. And then shooting guard, Devin Booker is the same definitiveness as Steph Curry, being 63%. But then Steph Curry is also here in the shooting guard. So he's the best point guard in the league, but he's also the second best shooting guard in the league at 10%. And then Luka Doncic is third. Tied with Luka Doncic is Anthony Edwards and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, all receiving 2 votes each. And then there's a couple that received 1 vote, and that was Jimmy Butler and Jason Tatum. I didn't even see this the first time. Somebody's considering Jason Tatum a shooting guard, which I don't hate, being able to put him as shooting guard, as I've noted before, on all NBA teams or all-star teams. Totally fine with slotting Jason Tatum to the 2, but saying that is his primary position is
wild.
Has he ever watched basketball? This GM that said that? You know what I mean?
He plays power forward. He's had more starts and things at power forward and actions and plays at power forward than he has at shooting guard. And I don't think it's even close.
Oh yeah, not even close. I thought you were about to say small forward, and I was like, I feel like he's probably slightly been more at the small forward, but it's close with power forward. With shooting guard, it's not even close.
It's 40, 35, and no, I did the math wrong. But
for him to be the shooting guard in a lineup, that's you would have to have Al and Rob in there, and probably Grant Williams at 3.
That never happened. I can promise you that did not happen once.
At most, a total of 12 minutes of all time, of a lineup like that,
Yeah.
So not really a thing, but so I don't hate any of those, I guess, though.
Other than the Jason Tatum thing, I think is an atrocity.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And then who is the best small forward in the NBA? Jason Tatum wins that, 47%. Kevin Durant's second with 20%. Luka is third with 17%. LeBron is fourth with 13%. Kawhi is fifth with 3%.
It's a wild world to be you know what? I think Luka Doncic is a better small forward than LeBron James. It just is because they just aren't the same. Just calling Luka a small forward is not wrong, but it's just weird to me. It's just bizarre.
That's probably what I would call him.
I would call him a shooting guard.
Yeah, just because you're combining the fact that he's big for a point guard, and then he handles too much for to be a small forward. Is that why?
That's what it is, and I don't know why. Just in my brain, he just is a 2.
Yeah, I don't. I've said this before on the podcast, but the way my brain just automatically has always thought about positions is more of it's like a matchup based thing, because that's what matters in terms of who can be on the floor, because you need to be able to guard the other team. So when Doncic is on the floor, for all intents and purposes, in terms of matchups, he is either a 3 or a 4 most of the time. He's a forward. He's a big wing. But offensively, the way he's utilized is he plays every position. He does every, he's the primary ball handler. He's the point guard, but runs everything, so it's it's hard. that's why I think if you're trying to classify positions by offense, like what their role is on offense, I just think that's a really slippery slope. That's really hard to nail down and categorize, legalistically.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's way simpler to me to just think about it like, who does he match up with? Like, what position does he match up with? And for Luka, that is the 3 or the 4, probably the 3 most often. But yeah, so the next category, though, there's only 2 people in this category, as we've mentioned, who's the best power forward in the NBA. And that is Giannis Antetokounmpo at number 1 with 97% of the vote, and then Kevin Durant at number 2 with 1 vote from John Horst, the GM or president of basketball ops at the Milwaukee Bucks franchise. So don't hate that one either. That one makes sense to me. Who is the best center in the NBA? Nikola Jokic got all but 2 votes, and then 1 vote went to AD, and the other vote went to Joel Embiid. So Calvin Booth either voted for AD or Joel Embiid, which I'm interested to know which one, honestly, he voted for.
A little bit.
Yeah. But yeah, so, and he went up from last year. He was 79%. But yeah, I don't hate that one at all, obviously.
Nope. A little weird that Anthony Davis being like, because it's not like they get to pick multiple. They pick 1. That's what I think is weird.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, somebody saying Anthony Davis is better than Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic is a little weird. Yeah, I agree.
That's a wild sentence.
Yeah, yeah. Highest percentage of total votes on position questions. Oh, I didn't even notice this one before, but Giannis had the highest in this category, 19.3. Jokic had 18.7. Steph Curry had 14.7. Devin Booker 12.7. Luka with 10, and Tatum with 10. Which is Devin Booker being that high is kind of crazy, but that's just like the lack of shooting guards, I guess. Lack of
because a lot of the guys that play the shooting guard spot are just everywhere.
Yeah. And then offseason moves, which team made the best overall moves this offseason? We have Boston Celtics tied for first with the Milwaukee Bucks, which I think makes a lot of sense. Portland Trailblazers is third.
I like that a lot. Everything they got for Dame, not to make them a better. It's not. It doesn't say what moves made them a better basketball team. It's just best overall moves. You had a player that wasn't happy, and you got a good haul for him. Yeah, you're going to be able to flip Robert Williams for 2 picks, a first and a second, probably.
The thing is, I agree with it that it's a good. Like, I think of rebuilding in the NBA more of like a tourniquet type of thing. Like, it's not like it's not a good thing overall. But like it's better than what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like when you're out of options, that's when you just have to hit the rebuild button. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so if you're doing that even well, I just still feel like that's weird to say that you are made some of the best moves of the entire offseason when you're looking at other teams that are making moves right now to win a championship type of thing. You know what I mean?
Cut your arm off and lose Dame for nothing, potentially.
Yeah.
Or get things done and get value for him now.
Yeah, see, to me, that's like the obvious option. And like, it's like kind of being rewarded for doing like the bare, you know what I mean? Like not chopping your arm off. You get what I'm saying? It's just like it was like, I agree that they did a good job. I'm not saying they didn't do a good job.
Settle for Miami's package.
I agree. That's a good thing.
That's the easiest thing to do. Is to settle and deal with Miami's package as opposed to continuously shopping around, working the whole offseason, going to the Bucks and getting a not as good of a deal for the Bucks, but the assets you got, you flipped for more because you knew, Boston's wanted Drew Holiday. Flip for him for Drew Holiday, then what you get back from Boston is 2 tradable guys. Because if the Clippers decide they want to give Brogdon a go again, or if the Rob Williams III sweepstakes, like some team wants a center depth, you turn that into more, and then you're in a similar situation from OKC where Damian Lillard ends up bringing you like 4 or 5 first-round picks.
Yeah, I guess to me, I just feel like I favor much more the moves that are like making you a championship contender.
And I agree with that. I totally get the logic and the side you're coming from. Like I 100% do. Mm-hmm. But in terms of like, not every GM is in the situation where they get to do those things.
Yeah. I get that. So like they made good moves, but at the same time, it's like, it's not as surefire to lead to success as some of these guys that are like they're right on the cusp of getting that, and they just made the move to like make that even more attainable.
Because then the question, like the playing the okay, well, I think they did better than Boston. Excuse me, Boston, Milwaukee, which I don't think they did, is, well, Boston lost 3 big pieces that were their heart and soul. Those moves are going to end up being.
Oh yeah, I'd agree with that.
You know what I
that
mean?
Makes sense. But
and then the Milwaukee gutted the. You know what I mean? Like they lost a huge part of what makes their defense work on the front side, obviously.
Looking at the team that they're above, though, the Lakers, I think this is a good comparison. I feel like the Blazers, you would consider them lucky. Like, how likely is it really that the Blazers would ever get to a point like to be as close to getting a title as the Lakers are right now? Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's not guaranteed for the Blazers to even get to the Lakers level of contention.
Yeah.
So, like, to me, I feel like Lakers are a safer bet for being like, yeah, their moves were better because they're like more likely to win a title because of them.
Your definition makes sense if everyone is here because it gives you an advantage to the title. But in 5 years, those Blazers picks might make them a title contender.
No, I agree.
Same way that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I'm factoring that in as well. But I'm saying, like, if the goal is to win a title at any moment.
Eventually, yes.
Yeah, even if it's at any moment, like, how safe do you feel about the Blazers eventually actually being to the level that the Lakers are right now? Like, that's not a surefire bet. You know what I mean?
Yes, but I think that anytime a GM is able to scrounge together and get multiple shots in the upper to mid first round for a guy, I know that Dame is an established one of the best point guards in basketball. Like, I totally get that, but I just think the situation they were in, they did the best they could have possibly done.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't settle for the Heat thing. They went and found another person that gave them an asset that they flipped into more assets. And then the assets they got back for flipping the first asset they got of Drew Holiday, they got Robert Williams and Malcolm Brogdon, who are still trade pieces if they don't want to use them.
Yeah, I agree.
So
I think they did a good job with what they had. They managed that asset very well.
I think that's how their like train of vote, how they got 17% of the vote. Mm-hmm. Do I personally think that Boston adding Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis for Rob Williams, Malcolm Brogdon, Marcus Smart, and Grant Williams being gone?
Yeah.
And then they got a pick, I think. I don't remember
Mike
all the things.
They lost Mike Muscala.
They did. He never played for them
kind of
because they signed him. But then they also had, because they felt good about losing some of the point guard depth because Derek White had developed, and then also Peyton Pritchard just didn't play for us like at all last year.
Yeah,
and he looks like Jamal Crawford 2.0.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very partial. I think the Bucks, it was like a cool, good thing they did to keep Giannis happy. They went and found elite talent, but I don't know if it they just lost a lot.
The Bucks or the Celtics?
The Bucks. Celtics also did, but the Celtics, like, I see like hard upgrades, like multiple places. I see the Celtics upgraded.
Yeah, I think the Celtics definitely got better. Bucks, I do think definitely got better as well. Like, their ceiling is high right now, but the thing I do see as an issue is like the perimeter defense. But like, we'll see how much it actually is an issue. Like, I kind of am more on the side of, I think this is the best Dame will ever look defensively. Because Dame's never been on a good defense, and that makes you less of a good defender. You
look way worse. Yeah. Whenever you make a little mistake, which guys make all the time, there's no one to help you.
Yeah, exactly.
That doesn't help. But when like a guy gets past you for a split second, and then he was like, "Oh, I'm driving right at Brook Lopez or Giannis Antetokounmpo," it like really makes things look a lot better.
Yeah, like
whenever a guy gets by you, it's not like, "Oh, that's a for sure bucket."
Yeah,
because it was for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I know the big thing that's always cited with Dame on defense is like how he eats more screens than anybody in the league. Like he's the worst with screen navigation. But like the thing is, he's asked to fight over screens and like stay on his man because like Portland's never had a good switchable defense, and you don't want Dame switched on to anybody ever, type of thing. With the Bucks system, you don't need to. He doesn't need to stick to his man near as well because of the guy that you have in drop with Brook Lopez or Giannis Antetokounmpo. Either one.
Both have gotten the how to do that figured out really well.
Yeah, so it's just less of a needed thing for him to be good at.
Yeah.
But they're also going though from literally the best guy in the league at that, Drew Holiday, like the thing that he didn't need to be good at, but he was like the best guy in the league at it, which just made them so OP defensively. So it's hard to measure how much that will affect them. This defense might look a lot different without that, factor there. That might have been underrated, honestly.
Like the overkill might have been almost needed.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't think it will. I think the Bucks defense will still be just fine.
Yeah.
It won't be like earth shatteringly like this is.
They won't be setting.
Like there's not going to be these
records.
5-minute stretches where you're like, why can't we score?
Yeah.
I am so mad. I don't think the Bucks will be able to manage that very regularly anymore, where I feel like that happened at least once a game when you were playing against the Bucks.
Yeah.
You'd be like, we can't get anywhere. We're just smothered everywhere.
Yeah. And I think they've had at least one season, but maybe even two under Bud, where they've had they broke the all-time record in terms of percentage below the league average. The league average defensive rating. So like they're farthest away from their peers, and in terms of, because defensive rating is like on a sliding scale because
every year's different.
Yeah, every year's different. But in comparison to the rest of the competition in the league, they've had the lowest defensive rating twice, I'm pretty sure. Like as in terms of the most all time. So I don't think they're going to be that at all. Like I think they'll be more of just like a top 10 defense sort of thing. At worst, I would think, probably like around a top 6, top 7 defense is probably where we'll see them. But yeah, so looking at the next one, which one player acquisition will make the biggest impact? Damian Lillard won this one with 47%. Number 2 was Drew Holiday with 13%. Bradley Beal was 3rd with 10%. And then tied for 4th, there's a 3-way tie with Porzingis going to Boston, Van Vliet going to Houston, and then Victor Wembanyama being the first pick in the draft to San Antonio. And also receiving votes, one person voted for Dillon Brooks, one person voted for Yusuf Nurkic, and one person voted for Marcus Smart, which I think Marcus Smart should definitely be higher than both Dillon Brooks and Yusuf Nurkic, in my opinion.
And Wemby. That's so weird to me.
I don't know about that one, because that one that makes sense. He's going to make the biggest impact.
Acquisition is a draft. It just seems weird to me, because yes,
you could argue it could be first, like in terms of biggest impact.
Yeah,
but
it's just that's not what my brain did. The same way that like best move for the Portland thing, like my brain didn't go there right away.
Yeah.
But no, I think that I don't have any problems with this one other than the bottom. I'm like, these names are weird. I don't know why Dillon Brooks got a vote. Why Yusuf Nurkic got a vote.
Yeah.
That could be a funeral. That could be the Suns' funeral.
Yeah.
Is trying to play Nurkic too much.
That doesn't make sense to me, because like the team that he got traded to lost the best player in the deal, and they got him and like other things in order to, and it was not even like, it was kind of selling cheap. So how in any scenario is that the biggest impact of a single player coming to a team? Like he's the worst version of the guy that they had there. Not even a version. He's just a worse player. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's an interesting deal. Also, I totally forgot that they have DeAndre Ayton. Like that skipped my brain when I was defending like the best overall moves.
Oh, Portland. Yeah.
I just totally spaced at like they have Dominating. There's a breakout season we forgot to bring up.
Yeah, he could have been a vote on there too. I wouldn't have hated that one.
I wouldn't have loved it if he won it, but him having a vote, I would.
Yeah, for sure. I would have a problem with it if he won it. For sure. Yeah. So then the next one was,
most underrated player acquisition.
What was the most underrated player acquisition? Number 1 was Marcus Smart to Memphis, which I don't hate. Number 2 is Grant Williams to Dallas, which is a little, it's a little confusing. There's a bunch of 3-way ties, which is interesting.
1 million people got 2 votes, it seemed like.
Yeah, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I said a bunch of 3-way ties. What I meant was a bunch of third place. There's a third place tie
for third
that has a bunch of teams, and that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams. So there's Dylan Brooks to Houston, Bruce Brown to Indiana. Again, somebody voted for
only
Yusuf
one
Nurkic.
of these is actually an underrated acquisition. Max Strus to Cleveland. That's the only one that doesn't receive a
lot of media attention.
That's the only one in my opinion that is actually underrated because it didn't brought up, and Cleveland said we have a need. Minivan, not minivan. I flipped Georges Niang. Max Strus.
Yeah.
Do this. This is what you do. Fill the need we have.
Yeah.
And no one talked about it.
Yeah. I agree. That definitely should be on here. I think I don't mind Bruce Brown being in here though. And I get Dylan Brooks being in here from the standpoint of everybody have been completely hating it. You know what I mean?
Well, he's Dylan the villain.
Like the way the media has been rating it is so low that to say that it's underrated is like very fair.
Easy.
Yeah.
It's easy to. Well, and I think that's because a young team went out and got the 2 most inefficient scorers in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
Like number 1 and number 2 from the 3-point line were Van Vliet and Dylan Brooks statistically.
Yeah.
They just went and got that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's been ranked so poorly, because it was the first year of the CBA and you just need to spend money.
Yeah.
So it's the things that were on here that irritated me. Why did Drew Holiday to Boston get a vote? Why did Jordan Poole to Washington get a vote? These are not underrated.
Oh yeah, we didn't
at
look
all.
at those. The other picks.
Kristaps to Boston. Dennis Schroeder to Toronto. That's an underrated. Obi Toppin to Indiana is an underrated one that I like. I'm not even going to try and say his name.
Sasha Vezenkov.
Vezenkov to Sacramento. Okay. Gabe Vincent to LA. Doesn't get brought up a whole lot, even though it's LA. It got brought up right when it happened and then it kind of disappeared. But putting Miles Bridges going back to Charlotte,
which isn't even a thing anymore now. He's going to prison now.
Oh, is it officially going to prison because he turned himself in?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know if he's going to prison, but I don't think he's playing for the team this year anymore. They were planning on him. Like, I already didn't like that, to be clear. I feel like I should say that more because I kind of mentioned it before. That I was like, I don't know how I feel about him playing, but like, I definitely don't agree with how they
being able to come back and play.
Yeah. I think that's.
Especially it's weird to me because it's like you're already kind of bad. Just be worse. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's not like you're like, this guy coming back gives us a chance to win it all.
Yeah. It's just.
Not that should have anything to do with whether like a player is too big for the law. But.
Yeah. To me, it's just like it's so proven. Like what he's guilty of is so like. There's video. Everyone saw the video.
Yeah.
And. To then like say, oh yeah, we don't mind that. I don't know, and still.
So right now he's only on a 10-game suspension from the NBA, but after turning himself in, it is unclear what is going further.
Yeah.
Because what it is, he breached unlawfully and knowingly violated the protection order and continually contacted the victim.
Yeah,
and
so
that's why
this is stuff that's going on even after like the heinous act that he committed.
This is like the aftermath of the act. Yeah.
Yes. Which you could argue, I would argue, even after the first act is where
enough to be done playing basketball in the NBA.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which, like, maybe just like for the immediate future. You know what I mean? Like until things are legally
solved.
Yeah, and like you can tell that there's a change in character, I guess, in some way. That type of thing. It's just I don't know. It's also people complaining that like why did Miles Bridges get a second chance, but the Rockets cut bait with Kevin Porter Jr. and the Hornets cut bait with Kai Jones? Like, why don't they get and what they did isn't as bad or whatever. But to me, it's like KPJ's is kind of, I don't really know the full details on his, but I think that was a domestic violence charge as well. So probably in the same ballpark.
So allegedly he didn't actually break his girlfriend's neck.
KPJ?
allegedly did not. But he was arrested because he assaulted his girlfriend, who was a WNBA player, I believe.
Oh, really? Yeah, see, I don't know the details on this one.
I will find more of them before I continue talking.
Yeah.
And then.
But, yeah, it's just because those players.
He's in court tomorrow.
Oh, really?
For the day we're recording the 15th, he's in court on the 16th as his future in the NBA is in doubt. The Rockets are reportedly looking to trade him.
I think they officially waived him now, didn't they?
This was written in September.
Oh, yeah. So it was a few days ago. I'm pretty sure that they waived him. Yeah, very recent. So, but with Kevin Porter Jr., I think the reason why he's gone, and Kai Jones for that matter, and Miles Bridges wasn't, is because Miles Bridges is just a much better basketball player than the other two.
And as much as that sucks, that's just what it is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like it just makes sense that, yeah, I mean, Kai Jones, it's not like you're all like through the roof having him on your team in the first place. Like it doesn't hurt you that much to not have him. Mm-hmm. And he's just like has no sense of care about whether or not he stays on the roster type of thing.
Yeah.
And just kind of acting out. So yeah, if he's just more of an annoyance than a contributor, then I don't think there's anything wrong with the team cutting a player, honestly.
Yeah, that one was weird. And there's going to be a moment where a team needs Kai Jones. As weird as that sounds.
What do you mean? Why?
They'll just need a like, if someone gets injured or something like that happens and you just need like an athletic big go do something, Kai Jones will be playing basketball again probably.
Maybe.
If they prove it wasn't drugs and he's just a weird guy.
But even that, does that make it better?
That he's just
you know what I mean?
In terms of like your look as an NBA team, yes.
Probably. But
the optics of like bringing a guy on that just like dabbles in like aggressive hard drugs, I don't think is good.
Yeah.
But also a lot of people wanted the Hornets to more like evaluate like, oh, is it a mental health thing? Like, does he need help?
Yeah.
Don't just cut him and let him dance on TikTok.
Uh-huh.
Like it was
or
it was always Instagram Live, whatever it was.
Yeah, whatever it was. Deal. But yeah, the other one on this list though that we didn't mention, Jordan Poole to Washington. I think you mentioned that as like, how is that underrated? To me, it's like, I feel like most people have said that basically. Do you think that people have been rating it like high, or?
I feel like it's like underrated in my brain is like, there's just so many other ones that I'm like, that is underrated.
Okay, yeah.
Why are we bringing up Jordan Poole?
Now that I think about it, I think the thing is there's a big divide. There's a big gap on how people have talked about it. Like a lot of people that I more think of when I'm thinking of like basketball narratives, is like more of like the basketball nerd writers and stuff. All of them have been like, who cares, But
he's gonna have great numbers on a terrible team and it won't matter.
Yeah. And then the other guys have been like Kevin Garnett, what he recently said, and some people saying that he's going to be the next James Harden, like how James Harden left OKC and became what he became in Houston.
And maybe we're wrong and he will. I don't think he's got it in the cards.
Yeah. The thing, like the difference is Houston James Harden had like all of the skill, like even with OKC, you saw like he plays like Manu Ginobili. That was his main comparison in OKC. That's like he's super crafty and can get what he wants, play at his own pace. He can score on like just about anybody. It seems he has that capability. Jordan Poole's just like a quick bucket getter guard that like, you know what I mean? Like he'll have a lot of big points.
He's closer to J.R. Smith than James Harden.
Yeah, I would say that's probably true. Yeah.
That's like, yeah. Anyway,
like at the very highest, like giving him the most credit possible, like more like a Kemba Walker than a
Jordan Poole has irritated me since he was at Michigan and rolled his shorts up too high.
I don't think he rolled them. I think he just wore small shorts.
Maybe he just wore small shorts, but I just know.
Yeah, he had very short shorts compared to everybody else. But like, I'm pretty sure
when he played in Michigan, it was just him.
Mm-hmm, yeah, I mean, more people wear those now, but back then it was more. That was like when short shorts were like just coming back, Like for a while, for our whole like childhood and through high school, it was always like shorts at the knee. You know what I mean? Like if it was above your knee, that was kind of weird.
Yeah, but it feels like he's like wearing like a mid calf.
Yeah, he went really high. He went
or
like
mid thigh.
He went like 80s shorts, basically that length. I don't like them that high, but now like I've noticed I'm buying all new shorts now. Like I don't wear any of the shorts unless I'm just around the house. All the shorts that I owned in high school, because it feels weird to have shorts at the knee length now to me. Just how times change, I guess.
No, his shorts are legitimately like.
Yeah, no, his were aggressively small. I'd agree with you. Moving on to the next one, we have which team will be most improved in 2023-2024. Oklahoma City Thunder is the number one pick there at 30%, which makes sense. Houston Rockets at number 2 with 23%. Then there is a three-way tie for third place, putting Dallas Mavericks, Detroit Pistons, and Orlando Magic all with 10%. And then the other teams receiving votes is the Golden State Warriors for some reason, the Indiana Pacers, the Los Angeles Lakers, the New Orleans Pelicans, and the Utah Jazz.
You know what blows my mind?
What?
The Spurs aren't here?
Yeah, true. I think
there's a chance the Spurs are like a good team.
Yeah. At least it could be the 10 seed.
Didn't get a vote?
Yeah.
No one was like, Wemby could like come onto the stage right away. And like with Devin Vassell, like they just get things rolling and they're like sneaky and hard to beat. Mm-hmm. That wasn't like didn't blow anybody's mind. Like didn't cross anybody's mind. That's crazy.
Yeah. I agree. That is weird. And it's just the Dallas Mavericks. I don't get the Mavericks thing. Like we saw it a couple questions ago with the which team made the best overall moves this offseason. I thought about like touching on that, but I forgot. They're third in the which team will be most improved, but they also were fifth in which team made the best overall move in the offseason. Moves plural. And I thought it was weird that they were in that one. I forgot to mention it though. But like the Mavericks being better this year is just like such a maybe better than they were right after the trade deadline. But like in terms of moves they've made, this like looking at this roster right now, looking at like all the pick, like even to me the Suns without the Bradley Beal acquisition, not even thinking about that, like just thinking about like how they had to fill the roster around those three guys.
Everything.
Yeah. What they did, they signed like better quality, like caliber players, like to minimums all the way around all the way around the roster than is like most of the players on this Mavericks roster. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like there's not a whole lot there. And Derek Lively being this, like without question, like he has to play himself out of. This is a quote from one of the Mavs beat reporters right now that he's in a position where he has to play himself out of the starting spot at this point heading into the season. And he was like the number one thing about him more than anybody else in the draft this year in the lottery was he's like the least right now NBA ready. Like it's like he's more of the has time, like he has high potential, but he has to develop into it.
Yeah.
So his skill set makes sense fitting around Luka Doncic, but having him as like he's got the 100% surefire first, like the first team starter at the center position. And his backups, if you need to go to it, is Dwight Powell, and Maxi Kleba, I guess, if you want to roll him out at the 5. But it's just like how did they not? You have Luka Doncic, the easiest position to bolster their value is the center spot with a player like Luka Doncic. Like,
yep,
you can go sign a very league like replacement level player at the center spot. That skill is just to roll to the rim and catch lobs. And he's way more valuable to you than he is to every other team. You know what I mean? Which is what Derek Lively is. I'll give you that. But like to have him as like the only thing on the team, there. And then Dwight Powell, who is a very washed up version of that player, Yeah,
it's just weird. You could find that very easily for not very much.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, John Collins got given away for like pennies. Could you imagine John Collins on the Mavs? Like that would be such a good pick.
Yes,
such a good fit. I can't say words today, but
that's all good.
So that will do it for that Mavericks conversation, though. the most improved teams, though. I don't think there's too much to talk about there. Who's the most surprising move of the offseason? Holiday Lillard, that makes sense, is the first one.
Yep.
Bruce Brown to Indiana. This is the one thing I'll say about this one. That is insane to me that Bruce Brown to Indiana is the most surprising move to some people, because that before.
I think that he didn't stay, maybe.
Even that, though, it was the only reason some Nuggets fans started getting hope was because of how he was talking about it. But the whole year, the whole thing that we were talking about the whole year was acknowledged that we're not most people were talking about it as if it was a done deal, where he's not going to be around next year. And also the one team that people were talking about the whole time, other than Boston, started to get some
because
sort
he's
of
from
momentum
around there. But that was the only reason why.
Exactly. That was getting a little bit of momentum at the start of the offseason. But before the playoffs were even over, people were talking about Indiana is where who wanted to pursue Bruce Brown. So it's just surprising that's the most surprising, where it's several months before that move happened, I had already known that was the highest possibility, basically, so that's just interesting. And then, but all the other ones make sense to me for sure. And then rookies. I
have a counter thought before, because it's split up in these categories. Do we want to split it into two? Because this second section could almost be involved.
We're already at an hour 40. Yeah, we can end
the awards.
This.
You know what I'm saying? Because the second half would line up really well with the awards.
I agree.
Well, it's more than second half, but I feel this would be a good, because it's we're through a couple headers and then go from there.
Yeah, and we just finished. Did we finish one?
Yeah, we just ended off one of the headers, because we're at the top of the rookies and international header.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that's a good place to end. Yeah. So this will be the end, though, of the NBA GM survey for this episode.
Part one.
Yeah, this is part one of the series. We'll probably just do two, hopefully at least. But yeah, that we went through that a little bit slower than I thought, but we did have some good conversations, honestly, that will make for some good segments, honestly. So yeah, that'll probably do it for this episode, especially since you got a way too long of one last episode. So yeah, that will be it, I think. Jacob, was there anything you wanted to add in there? I saw you getting ready to make some noise.
No, just stay happy. I'm just kidding. Go to patreon.com/hoop theory. Also, take a look at the YouTube. Hit like, comment, subscribe, and leave a comment. It helps us with the algorithm. If you're on Spotify listening, give us 5 stars or wherever listening. That also helps.
There's comments on Spotify now. There's Q&As.
Wow.
At each episode there, if you scroll down, like how you look at lyrics on a song, it's the same spot as that. It will
do that.
Yeah.
Send us some questions. We'll answer them to open up every single episode.
Yeah.
Until we get to a point where that's not feasible.
Yeah, for sure.
So, just be involved. Give this man a coffee. He just does a whole lot of great work making this thing out. And if you're enjoying the content, thank you for listening. Because if you guys didn't listen, it just would be me and him talking every week, like we probably would anyway. But you guys listening makes it all the better. I don't have anything else to add, Logan. Is there anything that you would like to contribute to the conversation?
I think the only thing I will contribute is the same thing I've been contributing for the last few episodes, and that is for everybody to stay happy, stay healthy, and that we will see you guys in the next episode.
Peace!